What's up, traders? Going 4 for 4 today. Going to jump right into it. TRVI, this was a sad one. We ran out of shares as it was making this move up through 150. Would have been a nice little volume out of nowhere trade there. Our first trade today was on TCOM, or was it Ford? We'll start with Ford. I think it was Ford. This one was a bummer. We didn't start too heavy in it because it was a bigger company and it wasn't like necessarily a huge move. But it kept trying to get up towards 18 and it just kept getting kind of not shoved down, but it kept running into some pretty obvious resistance. So we got short looking for that move. We got almost half the move back down, but I was really hoping to get the rest of that move back down here towards that 1760 area. But unfortunately, it just kept getting bought up and it wanted to try to go higher. And I figured we were this close to 18 that it was going to go through, but it got rejected at 98 and eventually made that move back down towards that 1760 area right here. So it was kind of sad that we didn't get that. Ended up being a pretty small trade because we started with smaller shares because it's Ford, it's a bigger company. Figured it could start to grind and didn't want to get caught in that. TCOM, our big trade of the day. This one was pretty beautiful. It was around the same time as Ford. And as you can see, yesterday's high all the way down here, 2650. Huge pop on this one. And we played this one pretty close together. As far as our first entries, we were going to start with 200 shares, but I was thinking I wanted to start it with 200 shares up through 28. And it was just such a nice pop that I didn't want to miss the move altogether. And when we went through 2750, again, I didn't want to miss the move, and it started to feel like it was going to jiggle. So I just started it with smaller size. So I took 100 of the 200 I was going to start with if it made the move straight up to 28. And then, of course, right after I got in, it started to go again. And I think it rejected around like that 70 area. Again, you can go watch these over on Twitch. I'll have them all marked out for you. So if you want to watch them in the highlights section over there, feel free. I'll have a link to that in the first pinned comment down below. So I ended up getting my 200 shares just a lot lower than I really wanted. Because as you can see, it faked me out again, getting the full starter there, and it went up through 28. So at this point, I was like, okay, 28.20 would be nice, but it clearly started to jiggle on the other side at that 28.10 area. And so when I started to come back down, we added 200 shares up there. Now, typically, if I would have got my first starter here, and it would have kept going up through like 2850, definitely would have been like a 1-2 situation. So I would have did 200, then 400. But since I started this and I realized it was a little bit early, I didn't want to get too heavy too quick, just in case it decided to continue up through 28. I only did a 1-1. So we did 200, 200. Little unfortunate because it did end up working out right after that. But yeah, I ended up putting 300 shares out pretty close to my average, not even 10 cents below my average, which was a shame because this thing pretty much just straight died. Could have been a pretty big trade. But again, if you look where VWAP was, my average wasn't necessarily that great in comparison to where VWAP was climbing to at the time. So it was just being a little bit more careful. Obviously, what I'm saying is all in hindsight, but it still ended up being a great trade. Scaled out the rest of the position. And the last bit, it came down towards 27.20. And I wanted to get down towards 27, but it started to bounce and we hadn't had any bounce as of yet. So I was like, all right, first sign of a bounce, I'm just going to jump out because this thing is most likely going to at least try to go back up through 2750, maybe even try to bounce back up towards the highs like we see a lot, especially as of late. And so I took it off then instead of trailing, which is probably what I should have did. I should have probably trailed the rest of my shares and we could have got that bigger move down through 27. So a little unfortunate there, but it still ended up being a great trade. So can't complain. Next trade was on Tesla. This was a long. The Tesla started to make a crazy move. It had a nice move to the upside at the beginning and then just straight down after that. And so when we got to, if we scroll out and look at these key areas, we had this marked during the trade, but you can just see tons of support right here. So that's kind of what I was looking at for that first entry. And so that's where we took a starter once we realized it started to bounce off of that area, that zone. And took 3. Again, we've been playing Tesla with 5 shares. It's been plenty to kind of get my feet wet with it. I'm not going a little crazy. I don't like longs. I don't like big companies, et cetera. So starting with a smaller share size, especially with something like Tesla, is not a big deal. And it's not a bad idea either. Took 3 off, looking for the other 2 to possibly, move up with the market. And the market, every time the market tried to go up, Tesla would attempt, but then it would not really go with it. So that was a little frustrating. Probably should have cut these 2 off here. Not really sure why I didn't. I think just because it was so small, I was like, well, let's see if it fakes out. Because I think at this time too, the market was still trying to go up, and Tesla was making new lows. So I was like, maybe this is just a liquidity grab by the big boys before they get it to go back up. But as you can see, it wasn't. It continued. So we ended up adding just 2 instead of the 3 back. So it was like a 1-1 essentially of what we had left. So we ended up with 4 shares, and then we ended up just adding 2 more instead of 4, doing the 1-2 like I had mentioned before. So we ended up with 6 shares here again. And this is actually when I guess Powell started talking. And we got a huge spike. I had an order out for 3 of the 6 shares here, which was a little bit above our average. And then I took 1 and then 1 off again, just as it kept going. And I was really hoping to ride that last one all the way back up towards the highs, just like the SPY is up at the highs right now. And as you can see, Tesla is down at the lows. So not exactly sure what's going on there. I guess maybe just Tesla kind of outdid itself the last couple of days, and it's, kind of basing out a little bit, but who knows. But as you can see, was really looking to try to ride those out. But once it started to come back down, this was basically a little bit below our average. I think we took like $1 loss on these last shares. And it did end up going down and making new lows before trying to go up higher, but still never even got back above that key area, and we're all the way back down here again. So pretty good, nice trade there on Tesla. And then one trade here on BBIG a little bit later in the day. It was on a volume out of nowhere trade, which got us up to that $100 mark today, which was nice. Previous area high at 254 from yesterday. Nice little pop up through that area, right up to 270. We like that 270 or those 70-cent areas when we go through the $0.50. Look at that nice volume, that nice candle, just beautiful. Felt the jiggle, got short. We ended up getting 68 or 67, sorry. And 200 shares. It came down here and just started to kind of chill out. I would say we had an order at 61 for 150 of the 200 shares, but we just couldn't get that flush. Just kind of started to chill out here. So we ended up just taking half at 64, and we are going to take the other half off at break even. And it got pretty close. It got up to 65 and then started to come back down, finally gave us that flush. And then we put an order out there at 57 and it filled us. So that put us right at the $100 mark on the day. And I was pretty happy with that. You can see it tried to bounce off of that area right afterwards. So ultimately it ended up failing. I've been using the word ultimately a lot, but yeah, that's all I got. Don't forget to like and subscribe. Always appreciate the support. If you do have any questions or comments, feel free to leave those down below. You can find me in Discord, find me on Twitter. If you have any questions about the scanners, the trading journal that I use, you can also ask me about that in any of those places. And I will see you tomorrow morning. Peace.